An original 1977 Obi-Wan Kenobi on this episode of Retro Serial. Hey everyone, you're watching Retro Serial. I'm ENC. On today's episode, we have a little bit of GenX show and tell, where I'm going to talk to you about my story of picking up this Obi-Wan Kenobi. Before we get to that story, please do me the awesome honor of liking this video and hitting that subscribe button and share this on your favorite social media. Those three things right there mean the world to me. And it is also, really important to support this channel and help it grow. If you want to go a step beyond that, you're always welcome to hit that bell notification so you don't miss a single episode. And the other thing you can do is you can help us out by hitting the link below to our Patreon page, where you'll find two levels of support: the Cornflake Club and the Honeycomb Hideout. The Cornflake Club is just $3 a month, saying, hey, we like what you're doing, keep it up. The Honeycomb Hideout, though, has the benefit of you get all these videos, most all these videos and podcasts one day in advance. With all that said, let's get to our episode of GenX Show and Tell. Well, this week's episode really starts on the heels of our last episode of Show and Tell. As you recall, I went into the comic book store and I picked this original 1977 issue of this X-Wing fighter, which in the last episode I kept calling a TIE fighter. And this is not mine. I purchased it for my my son-in-law. But when I went in there, the comic book store owner, whose name's Dave, and I've also interviewed him twice on this show, where we talk about comic books and growing up Generation X and growing up a nerd and a geek and all that stuff. So check those episodes out as well. Two really good episodes on growing up Generation X. But I go in there from time to time, and we're all big fans of Star Wars, and we're all big fans of, comic books and things like that, nerd and geek culture. And I was just looking around for something to buy for my family. And of course, I came across this X-Wing fighter, which at the time didn't have one of these laser cannons. But when I went in there to pick it up, a person had just sold this along with a few other items, and one of those items that he was selling was this Obi-Wan Kenobi, which I had my eye on. But it was Christmas. You don't buy stuff for yourself at Christmas. That's the rule in my house. I don't know if it's the rule in your house, but it's certainly the rule in my house. You do not buy stuff for yourself at Christmas. But I had my eye on that. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is an original Obi-Wan Kenobi. And Obi-Wan Kenobi, as many of you know, is my absolute favorite Jedi. When I was a kid, I used to imagine what Obi-Wan Kenobi's life was like. Of course, when I was a kid, we didn't have the prequels. We only had the original trilogy. But I knew that he survived the Clone Wars, and I knew he was two of the last living Jedi. And so I knew that he was awesome. And so he was a really, really cool Jedi. So I used to do this as a kid, let my imagination run wild, thinking of what Obi-Wan Kenobi's life as a Jedi was like. And so I was always really drawn to Obi-Wan Kenobi. And it's actually part of the reason why I don't hate the prequels. As I've said before, I love the trilogy, the original trilogy. I like the prequels. I can't stand the three that come after, the newest three, Force Awakens and all that jazz. And one of the reasons I don't hate the prequels is because a lot of it revolves around this guy right here, Obi-Wan Kenobi, who I've mentioned already is my favorite Jedi. So when I went into the comic book store, as I said, there was a laser cannon that was missing. And he recently called me and said, hey, we got the laser cannon in, will you come pick it up? Well, of course, I wanted to go pick it up, and I wanted to check this guy out, Obi-Wan Kenobi. But I really wasn't planning on purchasing it. And this is where the story gets kind of funny and kind of interesting. he had not marked these prices out yet. He had not brought all the new Star Wars stuff that he had just gotten, which is old Star Wars stuff. And he had not yet set a price on it. So, but I didn't know that. So I just went into the store to get this cannon for this thing. And I asked him, well, hey, I was just wondering about that Obi-Wan Kenobi. So he goes, oh, you want that Obi-Wan Kenobi? I'm like, well, I don't want it. I just was interested in it. And he goes into the back and he spends like 5 minutes, back there digging it out. And so then he goes to the computer and he starts looking up prices. And I'm like, well, he's going through an awful lot of work just to find the prices out. So at the end of it, he says, well, I've got that. He looked it up. He saw what it was and that it had this extended piece still on it. I'm going to show you that extended piece like that. But it's actually missing the extended, that little tiny thin piece of plastic that, if you remember, came at the end of that extended the blade out, that actually didn't go all the way into the blade. It stuck out about that far. But when the blade was extended out, it made the blade stick out just a tad bit further. Those were really expensive. If you got that, it's really expensive. But he looked it up and he says, well, I see 2 prices on it. And he said, for you, I'll give you the cheaper price. So I'm sitting there going, all right, well, he went in back. It took him a while to find it. It wasn't out just, sitting in his store merchandise. And he spent the time looking it up and he's going to give me the cheaper price. So I went ahead and spent the money and bought it. And that is our issue of Show and Tell. Have a look at him. Isn't he cool? Isn't he cool? It's kind of looking at me too. All right. Yeah, but this is an original 1977. He also warned me that these days it's actually very difficult to tell if you have an original with all the original pieces with 3D printing, because what people are doing now, unfortunately, or fortunately if you want the piece, but unfortunately if you're a collector, is what people are doing right now is they're replicating the parts with their 3D printer. So you can, so if a piece is worth more with its gun or with the total lightsaber, you can replicate those parts, and it's really, really super difficult to tell. But this is an original. All right, well, that's my story. Did you like Obi-Wan Kenobi? How did you think he was as far as the Jedi is concerned? Do you think that I should have shelled out the money? This was $31, by the way. $31.50 after tax, something like that. Do you think it was worth it to get this? Well, was it worth it or not? It's going to be in the back there. You'll see it from time to time. You might see it float around. I just want to thank you all for watching this. Please don't forget to like this video, comment, and subscribe, and share this on your favorite social media. If you've done all that and you still want to support the channel, hit our Patreon page up, where you can find 2 levels of support, where you can find our Cornflake Club and you can find our Honeycomb Hideout. And give if you feel like giving to help me support this great mogul empire. Until next time, I'm ENC. You've been watching Retro Serial. Stay retro, everyone.